violent back and forth shaking in bed.
Started feeling myself being thrown out of bed.
I wonder if the rest of the house is standing.
And we heard crashing going on around us.
And then it just started shaking and rolling at the same time.
When I first got here, it was dark, all the lights are out, and the emergency alarm was going off and flashing. So it was like a scene out of a movie.
Everything up was down.
We had about 8 buildings that were red tagged.
I reported over here immediately after that.
We were able to pull that plan out, turn to the page on essential services where there's a chart that says which services in our agency are critical in the first 24 hours.
It all proved to make a difference.
One of the questions in my mind was, where was that earthquake centered? Because if it was in San Francisco or somewhere else, then that was probably the big one.
There's usually no warning when an earthquake hits, and the one that left a lot of damage in Napa and Solano recently also shook up the county's ability to serve the public.
You're really dealing with Maslow's basic hierarchy of needs, right? Shelter, clothing, food, and all of those pieces. And again, because that's part of the responsibility of this department as an agency, it makes it even more critical for us to establish our normal operations as much as possible.
Any emergency, quake, flood, fire, can challenge a county's first responders and the rest of the county structure too, as people try to continue serving critical needs.
We have a juvenile hall. We still had to really make sure that the youth we were holding were safe. We were getting parents notified.
Our mental health emergency crisis clinic was open during this, right? So they were up and running and operational and picking up the floor and dealing with fire alarms while they were taking phone calls.
And they have to do all that, even when their own facilities might be unusable.
Right, we had about 8 buildings that were red tagged that housed staff, and we didn't get the ability to get inspectors coming in until kind of late Monday. So we weren't sure where we were going to put our staff and how we were going to continue services in that process.
After that first 24 hours, things began to stabilize, and we moved from the initial response to recovery and really experienced what I think most of the community did, which is when you're in that second or third day after an earthquake, not being able to go home, not having water, not having electricity, not having the things you need to run your normal life, that's when things begin to fray.
By all accounts, Napa and Solano counties responded extremely well in the hectic hours immediately after the quake and in the transition from emergency response to recovery. In this video series, CSAC is going to explore how and why the recovery has gone so smoothly so far. There are lessons to be learned here. In the next segment, why having an emergency response plan is so important.
Everybody knows where to go. They all have a position. We make sure they have checklists, so in the heat of battle, they know what to concentrate on.